Representatives, please join with me in welcoming the Minister of Education, Anne Tolley.
Ina mana, ina reo, ina hui wha, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Good afternoon everyone, and thank you for your welcome. I'm just getting myself organised here. When I came in 2009 and talked to you, many of you were dressed in pink, and you had some writing on the t-shirts. When I came last year, many of you were dressed in green, and I see some of those t-shirts here, and orange. I didn't see any orange. There's some yellow ones out here. And you had some little signs for me, but I unfortunately didn't have my glasses on, and I couldn't read what was on the signs. However, I see that you've learnt that you've got big signs for me this time. So I shall put my glasses on. Can I start by acknowledging all of you who have been involved in the Christchurch earthquakes and been affected by the earthquakes. And I want to pay tribute to you particularly because it was absolutely important that we got children in Christchurch back into education routines as quickly as possible. And I have been so impressed by how incredibly hard schools and early childhood centres services worked to reopen, bringing some certainty and some normality to children and also to their families. And I know that many of those teachers were themselves dealing with their own personal grief and adversity. So thank you very much for that huge effort. And of course it continues. We had another earthquake this weekend, and of course we'll have to go back out and inspect all the schools again. Can I say to you all, though, that you all have a vital role to play in delivering the government's vision for education. And there is no doubt that we have a very good education system. And this is a credit to you, to all of you, our teachers, our schools, and our early childhood education services. And I thank you for your hard work. But this government has made the decision to ensure that it becomes a great education system. And there is still much work to do. And the government's biggest concern is the glaring gap between our top performers and those who are failing. And the 2009 PISA results that were released at the end of last year show that our top 5% of students are up with the best in the world. In fact, our top 25% of students are up with the best in the world. But the gap between our top 5% and our bottom 5% is the worst of those top performing countries. And in fact, the gap between our top 25% and our bottom 25% is also the worst of those top performing countries. Worse still, the reading achievements of our 15-year-olds have not increased over the last 10 years. Over the last 10 years, they haven't increased. And actually they show a slight decrease. And our maths achievement has remained unchanged for 6 years. And this is at a time when there is an increasing requirement of our school leaders for more complex and demanding skills. And just last week, the requirements for university entrance increasing. Industry is requiring higher skills from our young school leaders. So we cannot and we will not tolerate 1 in 5 children leaving school unable to read or write or do maths anywhere near the level that they need to succeed, both as individuals in their own lives and as part of our country's employment sector. It is simply unacceptable. Those 1 in 5 children deserve better. And we are determined that they will have every opportunity to reach their full potential. So this is why we are focusing on raising achievement in reading, writing and maths, and on increasing participation in early childhood education. And this government makes no apology for wanting every single one of our young people to do better. During my visits to schools, parents, teachers and principals all over the country have been talking to me, praising the national standards. One principal wrote to me recently saying, "We have a large staff who now collectively feel confident that our assessment data and information on students is accurate and reliable. Being able to professionally discuss student achievement and plan for their progress has lifted the whole school's professionalism and accountability to each other and to our parents and students. We are going to be in a stronger position to allocate resources to where they are really needed in our school." They're not my words, they're the words of the principal. And a parent wrote to me, saying that national standards had made a big difference for his son. And she said, "He seems more interested now because he understands what he has to do to get better at school. And I am more interested in his schoolwork now because I understand it more. At last, I understand the school report, and it's honest. The teachers in our school are really keen to help me understand more about where my child is. And I think there is a better connection between home and school. It feels great." So we are now midway through the 3-year implementation of the standards, and I thank you for the huge effort that has been put into using them in your classrooms. Training continues, of course, and I urge you to take advantage of it. And while most schools have set targets against the standards in their charters, as the law requires them to, the Ministry continues to work with schools that have sent in charters that don't comply with the law to support them to make the necessary changes. As of yesterday, 184 schools had resubmitted their charters. Most of them had not been compliant for reasons other than national standards. And I understand that of those that did not set targets against the standards, almost 96% are now compliant. So the Ministry will use the information in charters to help target resources and support for students and schools which need it most. So without the data, students and schools will miss out on valuable resources to help those students who are struggling or who are not progressing. And teachers won't be able to access the targeted professional development. And these schools will then have to answer to their parents and their communities. We are investing an extra $16.7 million over the next 4 years to support teachers to use those national standards effectively. We're developing a framework to establish a nationally consistent approach to teachers' overall judgments of a student's progress and achievements against the standards. This is to provide more support for teachers when making those judgments and to make it easier to report to parents and to boards. And it will also give you, the teachers, greater assurance that your judgments are consistent and comparable with other teachers across the country. In addition, we're setting up an online moderation environment for teachers to share assessment judgment and practice. And we're setting up leadership networks so that schools can share knowledge and best practice. Many of you will be aware that the Ministry, working with schools, has been piloting some new initiatives to assist student achievement. And we're investing $36 million to develop new programs and resources for students needing additional support in reading, writing and maths. One such program is to accelerate maths learning, and it's seen students achieve 80% of a year's progress after just 10 weeks of intensive teaching, with some children making almost a year's improvements. Most of the students were enjoying maths more, which of course led to better results. So we're continuing this program in about 180 schools this year, and some of you might well be working with that. We need to check that we can roll it out on a wider scale and still get that same success. 50 student achievement practitioners are now starting to work with boards, principals and teachers to develop and carry out plans to accelerate student achievement in their schools. These experts have a particular focus on Māori and Pacifica and students with special education needs, too many of whom we know don't have their learning needs met. Budget 2011 provided an extra $1.4 billion in education over the next 4 years, with spending rising to a record $12.2 billion on education this year. And this will mean that the government has invested an extra $4.4 billion to education since 2009, which is a massive total in this difficult environment, economic environment. And it shows we are serious about education as an investment in our people. And the government will be investing another $550 million in early childhood education over the next 4 years to allow as many families as possible to access quality services where they are needed most. $1.4 billion is the budget for early childhood education this year. $1.4 billion. That's the same amount as we spend on our entire police force. $1.4 billion. And that's 38% more than the previous government spent in 2008. So we've increased the spending on early childhood education by almost 40%. Last year I set up an independent task force to review the effectiveness of that spending in early childhood and to make recommendations on proposed improvements. Consultation has recently finished and there's been a really encouraging response with more than 3,000 submissions. Actually, I think it's about 3,500. So thank you to all of you who have taken the time to respond. I will now be, and the Ministry will be considering that feedback and then developing a plan to address the issues that the task force have raised. We've already made it clear that there is a big work program ahead and we need to work with the sector to lift quality, to retain the diversity of the sector, to minimise the bureaucracy, which of course makes life a lot easier, and also to increase participation. Boosting participation in communities where some of our most vulnerable families live remains one of our top priorities. And last year I spoke to you about the $91.8 million participation program, which is to create 3,500 places for children in areas of low participation. And already this program is starting to make a real difference. The most recent data shows participation in early childhood services has increased noticeably in target areas in Auckland over the last couple of years. We are continuing our work with communities in Waitakere, Northland and Tāmaki to find flexible solutions for families for whom early childhood education is neither a choice nor a priority. Panmure Bridge Childcare Centre in Tāmaki is a great example of the innovation that's possible when you work alongside of communities. This all-day centre, is there anyone here from there? No? Oh, yes, one. So this all-day centre is an area of low participation and families from the surrounding neighbourhood were not enrolling their children. So the Ministry worked with the service to find out what we needed to do to get the children into the centre. And we discovered that many of the families only wanted their children to attend for part of the days. So that centre is now offering sessional enrolments, which has brought in more children and then provided more spaces for additional children. So I think I said to you last year, this is about working almost street by street with some of these communities and finding ways to meet their particular needs. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. It can't be dictated by women. It has to be practical and be applied from the ground up working alongside those particular communities. Finally, I just want to talk about another issue that I know is very important to you, dealing with bullying and other forms of disruptive behaviour. And as I go around the schools, many of you have talked to me about this increasing problem and your concerns. We are investing $60 million in the Positive Behaviour for Learning Action Plan, which of course was developed by the Ministry and 8 education sector groups, which included NZEI. And they continue to have oversight over the program. During the next 3 years, more than 7,000 teachers will receive additional training in effective classroom management. Staff from 400 schools will receive training in how to promote positive behaviour and lift student engagement as part of a school-wide program. And some of the feedback that I've received from schools and teachers involved in this initiative has been extremely heartening. But be assured, we all understand that this is a long-term project and we must continue to support it and monitor it and evaluate the results with you. Other support for schools includes a new rapid response service following the most extreme behaviour incidents and an intensive behaviour service to target the most complex and challenging students. Families also have a very important role to play, and more than 15,000 parents in at-risk families will be supported to build more positive relationships with their children. And I thought I'd share with you one example of how parents from a community are taking the lead to make a positive change in their families' lives. The Tupperware Area School, which is a small rural school in the Tasman district, is delivering the Incredible Years Parent program by involving the whole community. 18 parents attend while their children go to a creche that is overseen by senior students from the school. It is run in the early evening to ensure that fathers are able to attend, and a local community group then caters an evening meal for the participants and their children. The participants' feedback is very positive, with many of the ideas discussed at the course having a positive impact on dealing with the behaviour issues. In 2010, all the teachers from the junior department at Tupperware Area School attended the Incredible Years teacher program, showing that the school has a real commitment to the program. And here's what a student said about the Positive Behaviour for Learning initiative at her school. And I quote, "Before we started using the program, we were asked to write down what we thought the school rules were. We all thought of the rules, and there were heaps of them, starting with no. For example, no running, no shouting, no swearing, no fighting. Now we only have 3 rules, which we call expectations. They are, be safe, be respectful, and be a positive learner." She finishes, "I think this program is changing the behaviour in all of us." So with fantastic results like that, over time, we will see more engaged children, more confident staff, and stronger parenting, ultimately reducing the incidence of bullying and aggressive behaviour. So in conclusion, this government wants all young New Zealanders to have the opportunity to reach their full potential. And you are all a vital part of this. And I thank you all for your hard work, for your passion and commitment to some of our most at-risk young people, but also to the majority of our students who are just fantastic kids. This is a government that believes in education and the fundamental difference it can make to the lives of our children. We are delivering on our promise to make a very good education system even better. So thank you for the invitation to speak to you today. I hope you've had a great day and that continues tomorrow, and I certainly hope that you enjoy your dinner tonight. Kia ora tātou.